All right, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting notice for today. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. All right, ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Tam, Commissioner Sai, Commissioner Wu,
Present.
Vice Chairperson Sullivan,
Present.
and Chairperson Yen.
Present. The agenda is posted 72 hours prior to each meeting at the following locations: City Hall, the Crowell Public Library, and the Stillman Building. The agenda is also posted on the city's website. Oh, forgot about that. The city welcomes public input. At this time, the public may address the Recreation Commission on items that are not on the agenda. Pursuant to state law, the Recreation Commission may not discuss or take action on issues not on the meeting agenda. To ensure that everyone, including those joining us remotely, are able to hear all speakers clearly, please speak directly into a microphone. I would now like to ask Management Analyst Shiganaga to explain how public comment will work.
Thank you. For each item on the agenda, there will be time for public comment. We will accept comments in 3 ways. First, we will take in-person comments for each item. Please fill out a speaker card and turn it in to me if you wish to speak on an item. We will then ask for comments from our Zoom participants. When we ask for public comments via Zoom, there are 2 ways you can let us know you would like to speak. First, you can use the raise hand feature, which is a button that's found by clicking on participants and then clicking on raise hand on the bottom right side of the screen. Please do not use this feature until we have asked for public comment, or else we may not see it or know which item you are asking to speak on. As a second option, you can send a message using the chat box saying you would like to speak on this particular agenda item. Comments will only be accepted until the end of the public comment period for that item. I will then read into the record any public comments received by email for that particular item. Due to technical limitations associated with gathering, printing, and sorting emailed public comment, the city has instituted a 3 p.m. cutoff the day of a Recreation Commission meeting for emailed public comments. This is to ensure there is sufficient time to gather and present the emailed comments at the meeting. Any comments received after 3 p.m. the day of a meeting will be included in the public comment record, but will not be read at the meeting. Thank you.
So seeing that there's no one here in person to address the commission, do we have any public comment submitted electronically?
We do not.
So moving into commissioner reports, I believe this is the opportunity that we have to provide any input from the community, from the commissioners who have reached out to friends or family or anyone else in the community. Just wondering if anyone has anything to report, anything to pass along to the commission as well to the Recreation Department. Okay, I actually asked a couple of neighbors. I had wanted to put together a coffee and tea type of event, wasn't able to, but I just decided to just reach out by phone and talk to some neighbors of mine. So just some input from neighbors. And so one neighbor had mentioned about activities, well, expectation of activities. They would like to see more youth activities, sports, or even cultural activities that are done after school. And so they also mentioned having more indoor sporting activities like basketball, badminton, table tennis, outdoor activities like soccer, tennis, educational activities for kids in general would be nice. And so again, they kind of focus on the cultural activities, maybe like language classes for kids and adults, something like in Chinese, Japanese, or Korean, where the kids and adults could do it at the same time. Probably beyond just something like the Chinese school that we have, probably just more about something to learn about different cultures. Someone else also mentioned more after school classes that would take place on the school site. He mentioned in Beverly Hills, they have awesome after school enrichment class at different sites that start right after school and don't require transportation. So they have cooking class or keyboard class, and it was all provided by a third party, but ran through the city's Parks and Recs program. And he also mentioned about having a community pool and said, I bet the high school would love a competition pool too for meets. And let's see, no, I had another one here. There it is. So someone did mention that they also enjoyed trunk or treat. They felt that the activities being proposed in the paper, the mailer, was very helpful. That actually helped his daughter know that there was something going on and asked her father to take her to the trunk or treat. He said that he would like to see more events that feature music or movies. And then maybe a 5K run around Lacey Park. I know we do have a 5K run that happens, but he just mentions it too. Okay, that's all I have. Well, actually, I do have one more.
May I
Yeah,
just, sorry
please,
to
yeah.
interrupt. I thought we were gonna do this later.
Oh,
But I did,
thought so too.
I did reach out to several people. Two things that came up with some regularity were music and art. You know, a music, a choir, art classes for the younger children was mentioned. And then the second thing that came up as well was the community pool and more meeting space. Obviously, we know this now with the rec center gone. It's obvious that we are lacking in meeting space. And then I talked to several parents who are very passionate about loving the preschool at Stoneman and how they would be very sad if something were to happen to it. And I said, well, I can't speak to that at this moment. But they did enjoy another option in San Marino for a preschool, or, you know, like a 2s class, and then 3s and 4s for the preschool.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with everything. Indoor activities, language, arts is what I think we needed. The probably top of all those items would be a swimming pool for the community. And in particular, a TOPS class that's year round. So even if it's not a competition pool, it'd be nice that people who have younger kids that don't have to go out and they can do it a year round. I think it'd be very beneficial.
Great, thank you. We're taking copious notes. I also surveyed some neighbors, and again, all anecdotal, but a few things that people mentioned. So one, they really liked that at some point, I think a neighbor's mother received senior phone calls and goodies. I don't know if is that through recreation? So appreciated that. This is actually before trunk or treat, but somebody said they love the Halloween movie and wish there were more movie nights, maybe either Christmas or quarterly. I know a lot of other cities do summers just because the weather is a little more conducive, but so movies, more movies at the park. Also an idea of a Mother's Day picnic. I'm not sure if that was just out of left field but somebody proposed that. Also, there used to be the pancake breakfast with the firefighters. That may be the fire department, I guess.
Fire department.
Okay.
They
Pancakes.
canceled it last year,
Yeah.
but they're planning on, or they canceled it this year and last year, they're resurrecting it for next.
Okay. And then there was a comment about there being not too much adult programming, more for children and for seniors, but less in between. And in particular, looking for exercise classes or lectures. Someone else mentioned that they enjoyed the Halloween and Christmas decorating contests. At the preschool, met a couple of families who have kids at the preschool. One mentioned that, and this may be specific to the teacher, that she's seen kind of improvement in the years that she's been there. Another mentioned that she's quite happy there, though. Just going through some of the older the documents that Kristen sent, so the safety of the facility, it sounds like most programs have moved off, but the preschool is still at Stoneman. Is that right?
The Stoneman property, as we all know, has most likely met its useful life. And the city is currently informally evaluating its use. Once the San Marino Community Center does open, the rec headquarters will transition. I know that at the executive team level and in between, city managers, we will be discussing, the use of the Stoneman building. We're going to have to start planning for the budget for next year. So I will be putting forth a recommendation to at least another year, keep the existing programming at Stoneman, even though staff have moved over and we, many rec departments manage multiple properties. We currently do that now. So, but the city is really at a crossroads, and they have been for many, many years about the future of the Stoneman building. So there will most likely be under the new city managers, charge and initiative is to, lead some type of community engagement project or process, to define, the future of that property, because there's many needs and the city doesn't hold many different spaces of land. And we have more needs for space than we do properties to hold all the various different needs. I know at City Hall, they're on top of each other. They would love to see an expanded space from City Hall and kind of move some. So there's going to be a big engagement process to determine long-term how that property is used, and then what would be the future of that, of our preschool program.
Okay, this may be a can of worms, but it just occurred to me, if the building is not in good shape to have young children there, if it's a hazard.
It's currently meeting, building code and that sort of thing, but if you've paid attention, maybe over the last year, there has been some public comments at a couple of meetings. The HVAC system has been needing some larger repairs, and it's sort of, for lack of a better term, kind of lumping along, with just some basic functionality, but the city's going to either need to, put major improvements to stabilize the HVAC heating and cooling, but for the most part, it is a safe facility. We would not be, operating if it was, had any really major risks of public safety for patrons or staff.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, that was a bit of a sidetrack, but the last comment was just around some of the contract classes and quality. I think there were some classes, like one example is like lacrosse. I think sometimes the classes start quite late and there's kind of a little bit of inconsistency in terms of like timeliness and professionalism. So that was just a comment on a contract class, but that's it for me.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
I don't have anything to add really, but except that, I think these are all great ideas. I guess this is more a procedural question directed towards, the both of you. When, obviously there's needs for, facility needs and, expanded service interest. When would be the appropriate time for, the committee to consider this kind of thing? And would we need to bring that motion first, or is it something that we could consider in the upcoming budget, and how that process is going?
Okay. And just as a point of order with the mics, it's a hot mic. It's always on. So did we catch that? Because were you muting?
Yeah, I think I might have.
You might have been muted, so we
I
have
flipped
to
it.
ask you to repeat yourself, just so we can get it in the minute.
Yes, just a more of a procedural issue, really is, there's a lot of service needs that have been expressed and facility needs that have been expressed. And I think for this committee to consider that, is that something that we would need to do by motion to add it on to the next agenda, or would that be something that would be considered in the next upcoming budget? And what would be the proper procedure?
Yeah, I think thank you. It's a great question. This body is advisory to council, and city council is are the elected body that will determine, long-range planning for, facility expansion, property acquisition, major, CIP items like the building of a pool or a general plan, if you will. And so, what this body can do is to continue to advise council, like, you're sharing today, that there's a community interest in a community pool. Well, first off, you need land and you need space to do that. And what park or what space would you do that? But saying that, you're in support of expanding an aquatics program, and that that there is public interest in a property or a facility that has a community-based pool. Those are all on record. Us as staff, we take that back. I would then take that back to a city manager, to say, and it's in public record, but there would be a big planning initiative at the council level and probably the city manager's level to actually evaluate, facility needs across all departments, and then a community engagement process that then allows the community to decide the priorities. And that would not be led by this body or the community services department. We would be absolutely a stakeholder in that, but really it's probably an initiative that will come from the city manager's office in a long range planning, and how to utilize facilities and property needs, and then putting it to a community engagement process. So hopefully I've answered your question. Yeah.
And I'll add, as I was interviewing for this commission, I was looking at other cities' recreation commission, their minutes, and what I could tell is, you start putting as many of these recommendations into the minutes, staff will pick it up, right? And that's the opportunity to bring it to the city manager or to the city council. So I think all the ideas that we bring in, I'm excited to just hear from, I think we were able to actually explore a lot of different ideas just by asking our friends and family. I'll even add that I know that my parents, they also live in San Marino. They go with a group of other San Marinians and local friends to Huntington Library for a walk. Maybe we switch it up, and maybe if the city does something and say, let's do it at the Arboretum instead or something like that. And then, so I think it's these ideas, we put it out there, the staff takes a look at it. It gives them the support that they need also to help them put the ideas on paper so that they can present it to the city council or to the city manager.
Yeah, and I would add to that I think at the core of what we're discussing are like strategic operating plans. So if I could work with the city manager and say, community services, we want to do a 3-year strategic operating plan. And we would then hire a consultant to help us navigate that public input process. This body, as an advisory body to council, is a main stakeholder group that will then have their voice be heard as part of an interview process. But really, the long-range planning begins with a strategic operating plan, and that planning has to happen in a very open, transparent process. And then those priorities are set, and we typically retain a consultant that helps guide, the city along with that public engagement process. So I tried to put that into our budget last year. Now I'll try again, but it really needs to be led by the city manager's office along with, and then based on where other planning initiatives for the city fall, like maybe the general plan needs to be updated, and they'll say, well, we need to do that first before we do a strategic operating plan for CSD, or how does that plan overlay or support a general operating plan for the city. So
on that line, assuming that in reviewing the past plan from before, is that strategic operating plan, will that continue to be in place and continue to guide all the bodies of San Marino in terms of budgeting and et cetera, until a new plan is put in place?
Yeah, like the one for CSD that was done. It wasn't necessarily a recreation program plan that they did. The Green Play plan was a re-envisioning plan, and it had a prescribed 3-year period, and we are in that 3rd year. And so we're executing those priorities now. We have to, we could probably manage an internal recreation program plan for the upcoming years at say the director level and the managed staff level. I can pretty much guide that type of a development coming to you, these types of feedback. We would put a draft in front of you, a program plan, but that doesn't address facilities at all. It's just the programming activation of current spaces. You guys are talking, and I love hearing all communities want their own swimming pool. But there's a lot to be considered for that, because from what I understand, the city doesn't have any vacant property right now where we can say, let's propose and let's dream and let's vision about, a bona fide recreation and fitness center or something, or a recreation center, because San Marino Center is purely by definition is going to be a community center. Recreation means when you call something a rec center, it's typically in the business. You've got a gymnasium, you've got a pool, you've got more kind of active programming space. Yeah, so.
May I, speaking to your previous point, I went through the re-envisioning plan. Fewer contract classes, increased events and pop-up activities year-round, and more rebranding activities where it's more of a community. So when we're talking about how we're hearing that they want more classes and there's no space and things like that, when we have more space, are we still going to be focusing on other events for the community, or are we still going to try to build the classes so people can come back into our city?
Yeah. We're hitting capacity already on events.
Okay.
So, and we realize we do have gap in our programs that we offer, such for adult fitness, adult classes. And so now that we have San Marino Center opening up, because we've been without it this year, so we couldn't do anything. So it is the plan to really look at the programming and optimizing the programming space at the San Marino Center, which gives us a little more space to do things. The other idea that we had is looking at, obviously talking with the school district and finding out if they have any programmable space that they would give to us, please. And Eddie and I have already talked with them about the pool. We'll take early morning hours and see if adult lap swim will work, or if we can find an instructor, but their space is pretty coveted as well. We are also looking to partner with the Rose Bowl Aquatic, and if we can transport, because and get some transportation, which we do have some transportation grant money. They too are maxed over there. We're trying to find creative ways to look at not just city-owned space, but maybe there is some churches that have a gym. Is there a church in San Marino that has a gym and they're not using it? We're going to outreach to anybody who has rec space and see if we can maybe rent that space in the future.
So the idea of having bigger other community events isn't taking anything away from individual classes that you're planning for the future?
No.
Okay.
No.
Just wondering.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're at a staffing capacity as well. So we're not going to be able to grow a lot of programming and or events unless we get additional staff.
I just had one comment. So you said there's no available space. What about repartitioning things like Lacey Park? and putting a swimming pool or small rec center there.
And then and those are great questions, but that's well above like our authority really at staff level. That's a great question for council. Typically, when you have a park that's 30 acres, you have a site master plan. So Lacey Park has been master planned. And I don't know if they have an updated master plan or if they've put that out to the public in the last 10 years. But that's a great question. You know, is there any political will or community will to take any of that open space? Typically, people don't like to take away open space and grass and park space to put in, but it really goes to a planning, and then that type of planning initiative, because right now that is under our Parks and Public Works Department. And so they would lead that initiative to do. And I honestly do not know the answer to whether Lacey Park has an updated master plan. Yeah, that was like approved by council, you know, in the last 5 or 10 years.
So I really do appreciate the questions and the answers, but I also, you know, just as a point of order that I do recognize on the agenda that we have approval of minutes and then we have the director of
Yeah.
recreation manager report.
Yep.
So I think, you know, just remind us that, you know, probably the order, just to make sure we ask you questions now so that when we get to your part, we do have the
Mhm.
questions and answer sessions. I just want to just kind of, you know, put that out there so that we recognize it in the future to make sure that the orders of the minutes and the agenda are followed. So why don't we first do the approval of the minutes? The first item on the agenda is approval of minutes. Are there any questions from the commission? Seeing none, I'd like to open up the item for public comments. Seeing no one here, is there anyone who would like to make public comments submitted electronically?
No, there's no one.
So at this time, I will bring the item back to the commission for discussion. Do I have any comments or questions from the commission? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Yeah, motion to approve. Yeah.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Okay, Commissioner Tam?
Present.
It's a yes.
Yes.
Yes. Commissioner Sai? Commissioner Wu?
Yeah.
Vice Chairperson Solon
Yes.
and Chairperson Yan.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, the second item on the agenda is the Director and Recreation Manager Report. Can we please have a presentation from Community Services Director Johnson and Recreation Manager Covarrubias?
Covarrubias.
Covarrubias.
Covarrubias, right?
Yeah. Break it up, break it up. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Chairman. I am starting my report on page 9 in your packet. That is the item, our Director and Managers Report. Hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at it. The first item I'd like to sort of pull out of here is the Home for the Holidays found on page 9. This is just a reminder to please mark your calendars. A couple of updates related to this event is the fact that in the description on the original plan for this event, which it is a first-year event, it was going to be designed as a 12-week series of festivities, and we were going to be partnering with the Chinese Club towards the end of the 12 weeks to not only acknowledge the front half of the holiday season, so to speak, with a kickoff of a tree lighting ceremony and mayor's reception, which is what you see. But at the back end, we were also going to be partnering with Chinese Club. We have found out in the last couple of weeks that they are considering an event in February now. So that Lunar New Year activity that was going to maybe happen mid-January is now going to be happening probably in mid-February. So more information on that to come. We are not the lead agency on that event. It will be Chinese Club, but we are partnering with them and we're supporting all of their planning activities. And they are currently underway with a new committee. And more information to come on that. We are looking for, if anybody would like to volunteer And we'd like to thank you all for volunteering, those of you who volunteered at Trunk or Treat, which we'll get to. But this one will not be anywhere near that level of volunteer involvement. But we hope that you're able to join us. If you would like to just come in and be a commissioner and participate in the event, that's greatly appreciated. But if you'd like to help out, give us, Eddie and I, an email. We've got a couple of small jobs that we could ask you to do as a commissioner. And then the marketing campaign is going to start soon. The big, really bona fide, hard marketing, and you'll be seeing a lot more about this event. So do we have any questions about that I didn't cover? I did include a write-up. Anything I can clear up for anybody? No? Okay, that's great. Then moving on to page 10, we are currently in, we're in guide. We're in this big production of that 24-page marketing piece that we do. And we're going back and forth right now with our designer and pulling all of our activities and programs together for winter. So that's a big workload on us at the moment. And then registration begins as soon as the guides get into people's mailboxes the week of the 12th. After that, we have upcoming events that we put on here for you. Hopefully you can, mark your calendars. One thing, the 19th of November, Kids Night Out, unfortunately, did not meet minimum registration. So that event got canceled, but maybe we'll try this again. We'll get some feedback and see if maybe the day of the week, maybe we have a little more success on a Friday versus a Saturday. But mark your calendars for those things in November and December. We have operational staff briefings. If anybody has any questions, as well as a little bit about our social media. And if you guys have any questions about the events, we are here, or excuse me, any of the staff briefings and the reports, we're here to answer and clarify any questions within this report. Okay, none? All righty, thank you. That completes my report. Eddie, do you have anything you want to add?
No.
Okay.
Okay, are there any questions from the commission?
I took your line, I'm sorry.
Oh, was it?
About question.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I'd like to open up for the item for public comments. Do we have any public comment requests submitted electronically?
We do not.
At this time, I will bring the item back to the commission for discussion. Do I have any comments or questions from the commission? Okay. All right, it's not a movable action, right?
Nope,
Okay.
nope, it's just a receive and file.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, the third item on the agenda is the Trunk or Treat and Movie Night event debrief. Can we please have a presentation from Community Services Director Johnson and Recreation Manager Covarrubias?
Yeah, it's good.
Very good, thank you. This item begins on page 13. And I included in this report, or Eddie and I, we collaborated on this this report. The event began last year. It was originally slated as a very small event. It's been talked about maybe here at this meeting, but for those of you that maybe hadn't heard this, last year the event exceeded beyond all expectations up to a point where we maybe weren't as prepared for 3,500 people in the park that day. And so we decided that, to keep an event like this at a manageable, safe level, that we should look at it much like we did 4th of July. So we imposed a very nominal fee. And we think that might have had a little something to do with the fact that the event then came in right around 2,500 participants. And for those of you who came, again, thank you so much for joining us and volunteering. It was a resounding success. I would classify this then as a medium-sized event. And the reason why this is important for these distinctions is because it constitutes a higher level of staffing resources, as well as public safety resources when you get that many people in the park. Okay. So we, as we debriefed with this event, for 4th of July, as well as for an event of this size, we would have two different types of internal debrief meetings. One would be at the administrative or executive team level. Those are all the department heads that deploy the resources and are really charged with keeping the city safe and keeping all these events safe. Public safety, public works, our department. And so we had one meeting with the executive team, and then we had a meeting at really the boots on the ground. It's an interdepartment committee that then collaborates and helps put on events of this size. We had two meetings. All of the debrief notes that were shared with you in this report came out of those meetings. So those are everything from city administration to staff. And then we all agreed these were things that we needed to address, make notes for next year. On page 14, under the discussion, the events by the numbers, that was kind of an infographic type look at the scope of the event. Then we went through our debrief meetings and we talk about layout, setup and takedown. Moved on to obviously the parking lot, ticket sales. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at these sections. We did talk about the Thurner House and how it's used. We as a rec division, we do manage the use of that space. We talked about costume contests, the arts and craft area in the games and how we use the field, how we used Area 3, the Rose Arbor. We talked about risk and liability issues. Those bullets are there. Equipment and then looking ahead and how we would like to proceed with your comments. So at this time, we're seeking feedback from you as commissioners, including any recommendations for improvements or suggestions for next year.
Well, first off, I just want to say congratulations. I mean, it was such an amazing event on various levels. I think for community events, why do we have this? We want to bring the community together. And here you have young families, of course, but to bring together like the police, the fire department, even the contract classes, like it really breeds a sense of involvement that I don't think other events have done, because you just don't bring together all of these people under one big event. And having like Dia de los Muertos and like having, kind of a diversity of events and representation. And I think from the attendees, it seemed to be a mix of San Marino residents and those outside of the community. And as I've kind of been advocating, in addition to enriching our community, I think it's so important to show other communities around us, what San Marino is about. And I just think it's a fantastic event. And the fact that it just started last year, it seems like it's going to be a legacy that will continue over the years. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. A lot of accolades go to the rec staff. I get the good pleasure of sharing all the good news, but Eddie and Angie and Victoria, as well as we have a huge cadre of part-time staff that help. And, we are experts. Eddie leads a great crew, and, really the props go right over here. I've been doing this a while too, but, yeah.
Thank you.
To add to that, we had an amazing time. I was not expecting the Dia de los Muertos presentation, and it was absolutely amazing. And I'm not kidding you, brought a tear to my eye. I'm like,
No.
This is so fantastic. Like, I didn't even think that coming in. I did notice some of the staff looked a little overwhelmed. So
Thank you for mentioning that. And that speaks to, if I could,
Mhm.
just because I can't underestimate or understate, I should say, the fact that while the re-envisioning called for more community events and opportunities to gather, special events are a huge impact on staffing resources, and we are at our capacity. matter of fact, the acting city manager, as well as a couple of other executive team, also noticed that we were spread so thin. And we have a budget that we have to stay within. Not to mention there's a labor shortage. You know, if 2 or 3 part-time staff call off and can't make it, we don't have a huge volunteer program, which we hope to have in the future, but that really resides within a full-time professional position to, you know, to really have a sustainable volunteer program, which then augments, you know, the need for city paid staff. But we're going to need to ask, and we will be asking in the budget this next year for some additional staffing resources. And we really appreciate your support and your observation and your comments, because we are going to reach some staff burnout if we don't get some relief, or we're not going to be able to grow. We're just not going to be able to grow anything. We're pretty much at capacity right now.
I think that's one of my concerns, because the event is really very well run. And I mean, you know, and it's already been noted, you know, these events are great for our community, and it's within the plan, the reinventing plan that's currently here. That was the big change, right? To bring these kind of events in. But, you know, if there's a common theme that I keep seeing through, you know, these reports is the staffing is not at a level to support that, and yet that's the plan, right? And the plan is to do these kind of events, and if we want to do more, and we should be doing more, and because these kind of events are exactly within the plan and exactly the kinds of things that bring our community together and also, you know, expose our community outside. But I would, you know, I don't want to, whatever we could do to make sure that that doesn't become an issue, because it is certainly an issue, and it's definitely.
There was another odd thing that happened that disrupted the staffing levels. And, you know, I'm new to as the department head. And so I've studied the budgets, and I've studied going back to the re-envisioning. COVID happened. Okay. And then there was some a hiring freeze. There were some not necessarily layoffs, but people chose not to come back. There was some attrition that happened, and positions didn't get filled. We had all sorts of disruption in 19, 20, and 21. And so when we went through the budget process, we were trying to backfill some positions this last year, just to sort of make recreation whole again. Okay, we're not whole again. And that was a real challenge through the budget process with the finance office. And that is going to be, but it was music to my ears when the acting city manager said, you guys need more people, you need more staff. And I said, you will be hearing this story coming budget. I will be explaining that we need to get whole again pre-COVID and pre-COVID really. And to be able to sustain really where we are, because I believe we're sort of operating even at a deficit this year compared to to try to recover. And we needed to sort of prove ourselves a little bit this year. Well, I think we did. Yeah. So hopefully you'll be hearing about some additional resources that we get through the budget process next year, which is going to start soon.
Just following up with just a couple of things that Leslie said. The people I was standing in line with, none of them were from San Marino. And that to me, I was like, oh, welcome, yay, you're here. And I was excited about it. And
We didn't know the ratio,
yeah,
if anybody's interested.
yeah, yes.
We didn't know that. We didn't know our numbers weren't in yet, and we hadn't done that analysis. So I think we were about a 65-35% ratio between res, non-res, with
So I thought that
65 San Marino,
you know,
35 non-res.
Bringing in people.
Yeah.
And they had to do research on it and go to a thing and fill out a form. And I thought, well, they want to be here.
Right.
So yay.
Yep. And then maybe
Good
they,
job.
went to dinner or did some shopping.
Yeah.
We don't have a big downtown or anything, but they were here and yeah.
Well, I would, and I would add to that comment is, and I know you've been collecting more and more data for a lot of your events, for everything that you're doing. And this is one of those things where, collecting the data, it will help with justifying perhaps funding through other, state, county, or federal programs if they have grants, or maybe it's just a justification for the county or the state to provide a city like ours some more funding. Because the expectation, or what some people feel is like San Marino doesn't need any funding, but the truth is, for community funding, like our property taxes, and there's not enough taxes and things like that that can be collected to help fund a city, unless you give us all of our taxes, but that's not how funding works, right? So I think this is, collecting the information, preparing the justification, and then finding ways where you could access additional streams of revenue or income. I think that's what we have to start looking at, especially if we're really opening it up to other cities in our communities. I think that's showing and demonstrating San Marino being a partner in the entire region, as opposed to just being an insulated city. And I'd like to see us do more activities like that.
Right, thank you. One other comment I would like to bring to the forefront is page 15 under safety, risk management, and liability. In the field of recreation, community events on sort of a national average are considered to be a community benefit, and this speaks to the budget, and then I'll speak to this. They're considered to be a community benefit, so therefore typically don't require a cost recovery of anything more than just, like they're typically a large general fund support item, okay, as well as maybe a 10% cost recovery, okay. We at 4th of July, as well as for this event, we have a large cost recovery, but the problem is we're not spending enough money on safety and security. So need to budget under that first bullet point. We know this, and we've been talking to police and fire and public and our public works folks, typically our police chief and fire chief and our public safety, really. We need to budget and hire a security guard company for emergency gates or exits, St. Albans back gate, bag check, cooler check, things like that. We're currently not doing those things. And we really need to focus on improving safety, okay, of all of our events. So when you're talking about budget, you might see that we do make revenue, but we're not spending where we need to increase those expenses. So we're not really having any cost recovery on these public events. So that's a big concern of mine, and it's already on the radar of both our police chief and fire chief, and we're putting that forward next year to hire outside contracted services, because even our public safety guys are tapped. They still have to protect the city and provide services when events are going on. So,
and that's for an additional budget. It's not like you have the authority to cut one of the, I don't know, like displays or performers and instead put that towards.
yeah,
public
no,
safety.
we
Yeah,
no,
okay.
we should be using the revenue that we make
Mhm.
and only have a very small cost recovery. Right
Okay.
now, we have a large cost recovery. It's well, and we need to bring that down because community events are for that. They're for the community, and we shouldn't be making any money on them. Yeah. So that concludes our report.
Actually, I just have one comment. I
Yep.
did enjoy Trunk or Treat. I thought it was a great event. And I agree with everything about looking for additional revenue or income streams to provide the support necessary to host medium to large size events. Has anyone ever considered doing additional, like, say, volunteers for an event like this? To reach out to the community to find someone? I'm not talking about finding the community and doing the security for the event, but for some of the things that could be easily delegated. Logistics, whether
Right.
it's checking people in and getting volunteers rather than city staff.
Yeah,
to man
that falls to a volunteer coordinator. Typically, cities have a full-time person who has that as a core duty or responsibility within their job description. It volunteers really are an extension of city employees. They represent the city, they're covered under lots of city liability, programs because they're functioning very similar to staff. Having a sustainable program like that requires a lot of skill and some professionalism to recruit, train, orient, schedule, appreciate those people. So that again, it's a staff level, it's a staff position and a staff function. And so that program proposal will be put forth in the budget as part of the new position. So because we absolutely are missing the boat, we absolutely should have a robust volunteer program. Right now, we don't have existing capacity. So we could get a backfill on one of those positions that we used to have in 2017, 18. There was, for example, a full-time program supervisor, and that would fall to, maybe 30% of that person's job would be to run a volunteer program.
Do any city agencies have a volunteer coordinator?
In the city of San
City
Marino?
of San Marino?
Right, no. HR, our current HR Human Resources Department, some cities, that function falls under HR. They don't have the capacity either. So it's either there or it falls under Parks and Rec and Community Services. So really the more logical department to take that lead would be our department. And so that's really a goal of mine. We're going to be including it as a program proposal for next year's budget, that we have a position that, because we will be having a new staffing plan for San Marino Center as well. So it'll be just part of the budget and the justification for some new positions.
So one last question. Do you look into like federal funding? So for example, maybe whether there's something in ARP or any of the other, federal bills that have passed, like, is there access to things like that? So I know in the county, we look at, trying to identify as many possible avenues.
For a funding source for a position like that?
Just that for, like, let's say programming, right? So like maybe the money comes in as like, a lump sum, and then that's where you'll identify whether you'll be able to fund for a position. So like the money then goes into the budget, and then like your city manager will have to figure out like how to allocate it. And then maybe that's where you would, request a staff member.
I know I haven't, but we can certainly, not in my travels of the business, not federal. And not even state for volunteer programming, but we can certainly
Or just
look into
for
that.
Yeah, just for generally, just because I know, like, I think I spoke with someone recently from worked for a city. They hired or actually it was probably a nonprofit. They hired a grant writer, and then that grant writer was able to get them more money than they had in the previous 8 years, right? So people who actually know how things work, sometimes it's just a matter of asking. And I know a lot of times federal bills or even state, it's just trying to figure out who to ask and what to ask for.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. I mean, we can certainly research those. I would like to think with knowing a little bit about the general fund budget, that the types of asks that we're making, that in my most humble opinion, I would raise my hand and say, our department, could use a little bit more of the piece of the pie, because the operating budget for the city is healthy. And yeah, so I would start there first.
Okay.
We're not a city that is, suffering. So budgets are not that tight overall. If you've been listening to the city council meetings and the budget reports by the finance director overall for the city. Yeah.
I see.
So I'm going to ask for just a bigger piece of the pie from the general fund.
And we do get a little bit of CDBG money, that's federal money, but we don't qualify for a lot. I've been in cities where we get tens of thousands.
Mhm.
Here, we only get like $4,000 or $5,000, or which we use towards the senior outreach program and stuff like that.
Because
So we don't.
it's typically underserved populations that they're trying to justify some of that funding for.
So why don't we move on to the fourth item on the agenda? Since that was a receipt and file, and we are going to be talking about the appointment of 2 members to an ad hoc committee for the selection of a consultation firm for the design build of the Lacey Park Playground replacement. Can we please have a presentation from Community Services Director Johnson?
I'm sorry, it's me again. This item would typically be presented to you tonight by a Public Works Director, Parks and Public Works Director. However, our interim director, Newman, was unavailable tonight. So he asked me to bring the item forward. So the background on this item is that in this year's fiscal budget, council approved $150,000 for the replacement of the Lacey Playground Park structure as part of the overall playground management program. That CIP sheet, or that document that kind of outlines the scope of the project, was attached. So hopefully you all had a chance to look at page 21. As part of the implementation process, staff recommends that the formation of an ad hoc committee to help guide the process of designing and procuring new playground equipment. The committee will be comprised of members of both the Recreation and Public Safety Commissions, with the Recreation Commission appointing 2 of its members to serve on the committee. What I can tell you is that I believe the duration of the commitment, it could be up to 12 months as you're considering, getting involved in this. The role of the committee they will assist in the review of the proposals that are submitted for the consultants. And then you will help pick the final consultant that will then work. An RFP will go out for consultant services for landscape design, and landscape designers typically will help design that playground and make recommendations. So you'll pick the consultant, and then you'll be part of the design build process if there's going to be any kind of redesigning or retheming or something. So that whole process could take up to 12 months as you're considering getting involved. There will be interviews of the consultants, then you'll reach an agreement with the desired consultants. And then this ad hoc committee will then make a recommendation to City Council to consider the award of the design build contract. The committee will then also participate in community meetings and scoping of the design process. So that concludes my report. I'm going to hand it over to our chair to facilitate a discussion.
Right.
One more question. When will the committee be formed? When will that
I
be?
believe it will kick off. We have a new Public Works director who is starting in December. I don't know if you heard that council appointed a new and we'll be welcoming a new executive team member in December. So that person will probably need to get their orientation under their belt during the month of December. I would imagine it'll kick off in January. And the holidays are in there.
Right. So, and some questions that we may also want to consider. So we're looking for 2 members from this commission to volunteer to sit on this committee. Do we have any additional questions? Anyone want to volunteer?
Well, I'll do it. I spent 2 out of the 3 days last week at Lacey Park, and the equipment is getting kind of shoddy.
So I guess like just maybe as far as this additional questions, I mean, we need two, right? Because there's.
Yeah, we
a
need
total-
to, and you want to consider that sometimes these projects even go beyond, because there's delays. You've got to know that you're willing to make a commitment for extra meetings and things could be up to 18 months. Not to scare anybody away, but when you commit, you're making a pretty good time commitment. So, and then I don't really know how to go up. I think this is a great problem to have. We can put forth 3 names, and if we've got 3 folks that are real adamant they want to be
I'll
involved.
step down.
Oh, okay. So Corey, thank you. So we have looks like Roland and Leslie
Okay,
Oh,
yeah.
that are interested. And so we would put your names forward to the new Public Works Director. And then as they continue to form this ad hoc committee, I'm not really sure. We're the first commission that received the item. And then public safety will get it. And then there'll be some staff representation as well. I would imagine I might get asked to be on it, or Eddie. I'm not really sure. One of us will be on there. So, and they'll be organizing this at some point, probably in December. So you'll get contacted probably we will not project manage this. That would be that Public Works Director will project manage, until we get the consultant on board.
And it's their department.
Yeah.
Or how many contract analysts do you have in the city? Does each department have their own, or you just have one contract analyst who develops the entire solicitation?
No, we have not every single department. We are fortunate. You say contract analyst, we say management analyst, but Public Works doesn't have a management analyst, and he was the one who prepared the report. I don't know if you noticed his name. So he will, you might get some correspondence from him, Robert Bauman as an analyst, or most likely, it won't be coming from Kristen. It'll be coming from them, the new director, as well as the management analyst.
If you need a third.
Yeah, we can put you as an alternate in case, we can say here's an alternate, but we have our 2
Thank you.
primary.
Yeah. All right, great.
Okay.
Got out of that one.
We're gonna have to thumb wrestle or
Yeah.
something.
So we could open up this item for public comments. Is there anyone on some of the comments electronically?
There is not.
Okay, so we'll bring this item back to the commission. Well, I think we have discussion already. Any more questions or comments from the commission?
Just curious, is the 150,000 the full budget for construction and landscapes design and everything?
It's the current budget. So, but that's up for, consideration as the ad hoc committee goes through, the process. So. But that's currently what's set aside right now for the scope of the project.
Okay, so we have a motion for this agenda item to for the 2 names to be submitted.
Mhm.
Okay, so do I have a motion?
So moved.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Wu,
Yes.
Commissioner Sai.
Yeah.
Commissioner Tan,
yes.
Vice Chairperson Solon,
Yes.
and Chairperson Yen.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Right. Do we have any written communication or public writings for distribution?
That would be among you
Oh.
guys.
Oh, is it amongst us?
Yeah, so if you guys received anything
Oh.
from the public.
Do anyone have anything? Guess not. So if there's nothing, then this meeting is adjourned at 7:04. Until the next meeting on December 12th at 6 p.m. in the Barth Room.